I apologize because I'm interrupting someone that was presenting amazingly on something I was going to touch on. But I'll be real brief, all about broadband. I'm on the Energy and Commerce Committee. I used to be on the subcommittee on telecommunications. I moved off that subcommittee for this 1 year because I went on health. That's where everything's happening. But it's amazing that broadband has an application in all of the subcommittees. Doesn't matter where I go. Broadband follows me. And something that you were just pointing out, if I'm on energy, we're talking about a smart grid. What's a smart grid? Well, guess what? You're going to have to get that information to and from the residence, supplier, and it has to be interpreted and such. And there was a recent article in the paper where they attempted to do it a certain way, but the truth was that it probably would put tremendous demands and that the application is going to require broadband capacity. Excuse me. And that was on energy and such. If you go to health information technology, you've all heard about it, electronic medical records, right? And what that all means. I truly believe that the adoption of electronic medical records, also referred to as health information technology, will be part of what is referred to as the standard of care. You will expect physicians to utilize the electronic medical record keeping. And there's a reason for that, and I always tell people, no, it's just not about storing your information or having an electronic clipboard that then goes and the information goes into the big computer. It's much more. It's really about the practice of medicine. It's about the sharing of information to and from providers, whether it's the pharmacy, the hospital, the doctors, all of the different labs and testing. This is huge amounts of information. So you know what I'm getting to is capacity, and I do want to touch on that. So there is no aspect of modern life in America that is not going to require broadband capacity. I want to touch on two things, and I was going to end my discussion with those observations, but hearing your remarks, and I know I just took a little, kind of, not just interrupted you, but right in mid-sentence, and I thank you again. But the thing about broadband, and we can get into some real debates, but I do want to discuss something. And we're talking about minorities in America. I come from a district where you have probably 64% Latinos. My own district, I've got 25% or more of the population in poverty or below poverty. When we used to talk about the digital divide in the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, what we really meant was whether you had a PC at home. When people were really talking about, wait a minute, do you have broadband access? So you got to figure out where we are as communities. It's really quite interesting because a lot of people are assuming we are where everybody else is, and you might be very surprised. I did take a survey in some of my school districts, pleasantly surprised that 67% of the kids in the middle school and a couple of the high schools had a PC at home. But they really, we're really not sure what they used, whether they were really hooked up to the internet, whether they had high speed, what we refer to in San Antonio would be like Time Warner Roadrunner and things like that, or even AT&T that provides some. We don't have Verizon and such, but we still have obviously people that will provide. But so those are the issues that really kind of resonate for me as a minority and representing a minority district. In June of 2007, the Wall Street Journal had an article, and it said that YouTube alone in the year 2007 used as much broadband capacity as the entire internet in the year 2000. I mean, that's incredible. Now, you got to start figuring out where we are now in 2009. I don't know what this is incredible. And then they went on to say, hey, people don't buy or don't need or don't buy. They don't buy fat pipes for the sake of fat pipes alone. It's the application and content demands that require fat pipes. I hate using the phrase fat pipes, because I'm from San Antonio. AT&T used to be headquartered there, and it was Ed Whitaker who told Google, hey, what's wrong with you guys paying for the use of my fat pipes? And it started a whole war, and we need to keep that in mind as I discuss infrastructure. But the challenges are different for different communities. But the time is here, and the time has arrived, and it's not like this is a luxury that we can say, well, some should have it, some shouldn't have it. We don't really need to build out that kind of capacity. this is a global economy, and what gives you an edge today is technology. And for us to fully utilize technology is going to require very fat pipes and the build-out of broadband to all communities. Now, Senator, President Obama wisely invested money this last go-around in trying to do some of the build-out for underserved and rural communities, which truly are in great need because their capacity and their ability to use this will enhance the quality of life for them. I just told you about energy, I just told you about health, but it goes into the information and the communication that we require as a society. We can't let alone or leave any particular segment of society behind, and we surely can't leave an entire nation behind in the global enterprise and the global competition that is out there. The question then comes down to is how are we going to extend this? What are the policies? What is the government's role? And there's competing interests here because when we talk about the rollout of broadband and such, we're really talking about highly capital intensive venture here. This is not just an idea and I say I'm going to provide broadband. You got to get the capital, you have to have the resources, and it is expensive. It is an expensive proposition, and the big guys can do it. Verizon can do fiber optic. AT&T can roll out their stuff. Our cable companies can do all sorts of stuff. But the truth is there has to be room for others that are willing to do it on a scale that will address the needs of our communities, whether they're minority or rural, because that's where you probably have the underserved communities. And we've had this debate, and I don't want to be up here other than a couple of minutes to tell you we have to have a good faith dialogue, understand business models, and say, look, if you can't do it, what can the government do to assist that rollout, the build out, and the infrastructure that will extend out there? If AT&T, if you're looking at neighborhoods and you're saying, look, we already know the profile of that neighborhood is, and people would say that's redlining, and we get into a real big argument there. But if you look at business models, you're going to go, where's the consumer base is going to make a return on my investment? Hey, we're all business people. I'm not. I'm a federal employee, but you can criticize me for that. But seriously, I mean, you really have to think. Well, people think that we have no connection to the real business world. And at times, during our hearings, you will say, gee, did they ever run a business? The answer is probably no. But, but they're really serious issues. But we have to figure out what is that model. And I think there's no doubt that President Obama has identified this as a tremendous, not just a need, but a requirement. And if we go and today, as you sit here and you understand as you're rolling this out, why it's needed, the demand for it, but not forgetting that not all communities are treated equally, and that is not a good thing for this country. As a matter of fact, it's those communities probably would derive the greatest benefit from it and allow them to maybe catch up in certain areas. So we have to keep that in mind. Now, minority businesses. There's a real big issue there. I know the Congressional Black Caucus, Congressional Hispanic Caucus, and this is not to create any kind of real debate, but there is no doubt that I think the minority community, business community, needs to be getting involved in these ventures, and they can partner up and such. But always keep in mind, as minorities, we don't want to limit what we do in this world, but nevertheless, I think we do have a special charge to keep in mind the state and the condition of minority communities, because it's still not a real equal world out there. And that's just really important. For members of Congress, we need to understand that as our constituent base. Remember I told you about my survey and such, my students and so on. But we also have to start thinking in terms of business models that allow minority business men and women to partner up or even on their own and offer some of these wonderful services. I just want to tell you thank you for being here. I apologize for being late and interrupting you. It's just that we have vote after vote, and we haven't even touched some of the big pieces of legislation. There is not one piece of legislation of any major import, I truly believe, that doesn't have some sort of a broadband component or connection to make it truly work. And so I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you so much.